Welcome back to the war. Imagine a plane so controversial it divided the very allies who fought side by side in World War II. A plane that one superpower couldn't stand but another swore by. The P-39 Airacobra, one of the most polarising fighters of the war. In the West, it was often dismissed as a flawed design, a relic that didn't belong in the skies. Yet on the Eastern Front, it became a Soviet favourite, racking up kills and earning praise from pilots. But why did the Americans and British reject it? But the Soviets adored it. And what made this strange little aircraft such a mystery? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why the P-39 became one of the most unlikely heroes of the war. The story of the P-39 begins with promise. In the 1930s, Bell Aircraft designed a radical new fighter, the P-39 Airacobra, with a focus on one thing: speed. It had a unique mid-engine design with the engine mounted behind the cockpit, and its armament included a powerful 37mm cannon in the nose. This gave it serious firepower for knocking out enemy bombers. Sounds great, right? But here's where the problem started. When the US Army got its hands on the P-39, they were expecting a cutting-edge, high-altitude fighter. But due to design changes, the P-39 was limited to low and medium altitudes, which was a huge blow for the Western pilots. For the Allies, this plane was a letdown, a fighter that couldn't fight where it was most needed. But here's the twist. While the Americans were scratching their heads, the Soviets saw something entirely different, and this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The US sent hundreds of P-39s to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program. For the Soviets, who fought primarily on the Eastern Front, the P-39's limitations were a non-issue. Most dogfights on the Eastern Front took place at low altitudes, perfect for the Airacobra's design. The rugged Soviet pilots didn't care about high altitude performance. They needed a tough, fast, low altitude fighter, and the P-39 fit the bill. In fact, Soviet pilots took to the P-39 like fish to water. It wasn't long before aces were racking up kill after kill in their Airacobras. One ace claimed 47 of his 59 confirmed kills while flying the P-39. That's right, the P-39 became an ace-making machine in Soviet hands. But why was this so different from the American experience? Why was the same plane that was dismissed in the West seen as a war winner in the East? The answer lies in how differently the two fronts fought the air war. In the skies over Europe and the Pacific, air superiority was largely about altitude and speed, traits the P-39 lacked in comparison to planes like the P-51 Mustang or the Spitfire. Western pilots found it sluggish and vulnerable in high altitude combat where most of their dogfights occurred. On the Eastern Front, it was a different story. The majority of engagements happened at lower altitudes, often near the ground, where the P-39 excelled. The Soviets also loved the powerful cannon, which was perfect for taking down enemy aircraft and strafing ground targets. But there's more to it than just the right plane for the right place. Soviet pilots were also more pragmatic. They value ruggedness, firepower over cutting-edge performance. To them, the P-39's faults were just quirks. Quirks they could live with for as long as it got the job done. And get the job done it did. The Soviets praised its reliability and ease of maintenance, making it a frontline workhorse, especially in the early years of the war. So what was the final verdict? Could this controversial plane really bridge the gap between East and West? Let's dive into its legacy. In the West, P-39 would forever carry the reputation of a failed experiment, a plane that promised much but couldn't deliver. It never saw the same level of success in US hands as it did its contemporaries, and by the end of the war, it was largely forgotten in the West. But in the Soviet Union, the P-39 became a symbol of resilience. Soviet pilots wrote glowing reports about their experiences, and it was credited with playing a key role in the air war. Many of the Soviet Union's top aces flew P-39s, and to this day it's remembered as one of the most important aircraft they received from the Allies. The P-39, then, is a plane that defied expectations, a plane rejected by some and embraced by others. Its story is one of contrasts, a misunderstood machine that found its place in the most unlikely of hands. The Soviets' love for the P-39 shows that sometimes the right tool for the job isn't always the one everyone expects. But here's the real question. Could the P-39's success in the East have changed the course of the war? Could this low-altitude workhorse have played an even bigger role if given a second chance in the West? The P-39 Airacobra may never have been the fighter the Western pilots dreamed of, but in the hands of the Soviets, it became an indispensable part of the air war. It's a plane that divided opinion, yet proved that under the right conditions, even a flawed design can find its moment of glory. Thanks for watching, soldiers. I got quite a lot of heat for putting the P-39 in the worst fighter planes of World War II, so I thought I would do a separate video on it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts in the comments. That's an order.